I'm going to give one spoiler, which is something that I guarantee you almost nobody has heard of. And I literally, this is the power of community. Okay. I cannot stress this enough.
Welcome, everybody. You're here with the Crypto Lifer, and I'm here with Drew Wilfer. And every time, I go through the industry and I meet people, I want to bring people on the channel that really inspire me. Number one, I love entrepreneurs, people that come up with a new idea, create their own job. Like I created my own job. My man Drew created his own job. We found him when he came on the price report, and he had presend.io, which is basically a place where you could not, basically stops you from sending crypto to the wrong chain. Halts you in your tracks, make sure you're doing the right thing. So you're not that person that says, where's my $5,000 in USDC? Because I sent it on Optimism and I sent it to an Ethereum address or something like that. Because people get confused at the very beginning and they need guidance. Drew knows that to get the masses involved, we need to help them out, right? Grandma can't be losing her seed phrase every 5 seconds. And he understands that. I think that's why presend, if more people did what he did and make some type of complementary product that would help all of us evolve, I think we would have been, we would have an adoption even faster. So I just want to bring him on the channel. But one thing he also does trade. And so we were talking the other day, we were at a meeting, we were at an awesome party in Florida. And I said, why don't you come on the channel? I want to see kind of what he gets into and what he trades. And we're also going to have a 2-part for this that will be on his channel too as well. So you definitely want to stay tuned to the end and see what else we have stored for you guys. But how you doing today, man? Right off the bat, just how you feeling? What are your vibes? What's your day looking like? And how you been during 2023?
Yeah, so 2023 was a tough year. I'm not going to lie. All the stuff with regulations coming down and stuff. And with us, we had to literally push this meeting by a half hour because my lawyers just randomly decided to do a call right at the same time we were going to be doing this. And I was just like, okay, thanks, guys. Now, I think 2023 is a year that tested us all, but I think 2024 is going to be like a really good year for all of us. Not just the crypto, like my companies, but cryptocurrency in general. I'm looking incredibly forward to it. And you and I were kind of talking about this before we got on this call, and yeah, it's going to be really good. So I'm always happy. I'm in sunny Florida. That's actually where we met, was in St. Pete over at Casa Cardone at Gary's house, having fun, smoking cigars and just living life, man. So yeah, I'm grateful to be here. I appreciate you bringing me on the channel. And, I'm excited to talk about the market dynamics, TA trades that I'm taking. I want to see your insights because obviously you're the TA guru. You're on, you have your following for a reason, man. And, we appreciate you. And that's why I also wanted to bring my audience to you to come and see exactly what I don't have to bring to them in terms of TA, because it's a lot. It's a lot.
Oh, yeah. Well, TA is like a niche, man. It's like math. It's like math. Like, people that do calculus or whatever, like you kind of stay in it and you're in it all the time. You know what I mean? To me, you're either full blown in TA and you really, truly trust it, or you dabble. And people that dabble in TA usually lose a lot of money because they're half in, half out. Like they sometimes trade the flag. They sometimes do the Fibonacci, but they don't do it all the time. And the only way to really win as a trader is to be, basically, do the same thing over and over again, be consistent, use the same type of setups over and over again. So you can find a ratio of balance. Like, oh, I win 7 out of 10 of these when I do this, you know what I mean? But if you don't do it, you never get that. You never get that P&L. You never get that ratio. One thing, I'm going to show you a chart in a second and get you a little excited. And I'm going to show you why I believe months ago, I bought a whole Bitcoin at 19K on my channel. And the reason why, I saw all these analysts as I grew up watching TA, right? And I was a put up or shut up kind of guy. Like I came from Boston. I'm Irish. My dad was an iron worker. My grandfather was a bricklayer. Like I come from some people who are like, can you do it? Like, can you put the brick on the, you know what I mean? People do this, but they're like, can you do it? Let me see the action. And my dad always said, actions speak louder than words. So I was doing my analysis one day and I was going over it. And I basically had called the bottom for a few weeks. And then I finally said, everyone calls the bottom. Everyone says, but did they ever buy a whole Bitcoin live? I said, I'm going to buy a Bitcoin live in front of my whole community. I said, I'm going to put it down. I said, and when I did it, what if I was wrong and it went to 10K? You know what I mean? Right. And I even said, you know what? And I got in at 19,000, right? I bought the whole Bitcoin at 19K. And, which is beautifully up right now. You know what I mean? Beating inflation, kicking inflation in the teeth. You know what I mean? In less than a year, made basically almost 90% of my money. And definitely the dollar was definitely printed and we probably lost value in the dollar slightly. The DXYs went up or down, but we all know even if the DXY is up or down, the price of goods have gone up, period. Yep. So that's another reason too. I got into Bitcoin to save my wealth. Ready? I saw my parents work 9 to 5, taxed, on the money that they already made, and then inflation even take more from them. And I said, man, my parents were hardworking people. My dad was an iron worker. My mom was a school teacher. I said, unfair. You know, a lot of their wealth was stolen from them. I said, how do I keep the wealth, you know, that they, number one, that they've provided for me within, you know, a substance and having my family, you know, show me where to go. And then also, how do I like keep what I've actually worked for? And that's really why I got into Bitcoin. So if you want to, I'll show you my screen. I'm just going to show you kind of why I believed, or, you know, why the charts conveyed to me that we had bottomed for Bitcoin. And to me, I don't base my trading. My trading is based off of years of knowledge, right? Why I got into Bitcoin, I studied fiat currencies. I looked at the last fiat currencies for 5,000 years, and I saw that they lose value over time. They're made to be printed to zero. Like hundreds of them have actually gone to zero. And so I said, oh, I mean, the US dollar fits into this. It's a fiat currency. They print it. It comes from a central bank. I said, every one of these over time will eventually go to zero. So that's what made me realize, okay, I need to find an alternative. And I found gold and silver, and then I got into Bitcoin. So the reason why I even got into Bitcoin was because of I've studied fiat currency, and I looked at, you know, as much data as I could have in history. So history is really what makes me tick, right? So Bitcoin's only 10 years old. So we could say, okay, where are the bottoms for Bitcoin? And I also believe that human beings buy and sell assets, and no matter what the asset is, it's the human emotion that goes into the chart. So like, I don't care if you're buying the Dow, I don't care if you're buying Japanese yen, I don't care if you're buying Bitcoin. All these things basically eventually resemble similar patterns on a chart because it's human emotions that's going in and out. And that's what we're charting, you know? So I said, how could I figure out where the bottom is for Bitcoin? And there was two ways that I did it. One way, I looked at the Bitcoin chart and I looked at trend analysis. All right. And this is really interesting. The last time we had a beautiful uptrend and the market rallied back down, this I believe was a fake rally produced by money printing. I believe Bitcoin would have just kind of had its regular bear market here, but we got this extremely push up. So I'm looking at this as like the real top. All right. And this was kind of a fake top in my humble opinion. But when I look at this, you have a high, you have a low, you have a higher high, you have a higher low, you have a higher high, you have a higher low, you have a higher high, lower low. You're like, huh? Now, the way I talk about this is like going for a cancer screening. And each time you get a higher low, they're telling you you're good. There's no cancer. But the second you get a lower low, they're like, uh-oh, you might have to come back for an assessment. Like we're seeing some problems here, right? So the second that lower low is put in, as a trader and a trend analysis guy who does trend, you have to assume the next high is a lower high. You have to assume that. And if it is, if you get 2 to 3 candles of that time period, like it's a 3-day, you get 3-day candles to close, you have to begin to short the market. Just how it is. So what I did is I did this really cool idea where I flipped the chart upside down. And I said, if this is how the market ends, then this is also how the market begins, isn't it? So we would have a low, we would have a lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Then we would have a higher high. And you would have to assume and that would be your entry into the market. Also, that's a shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder. Inverted head and shoulders break to the upside, right? And that's why it was a shoulder, head, and shoulder here, broke to the downside. I do a beginner's course. I have a course coming up this Saturday from 9 to 12, the last Saturday of every month. That course, I teach you at least the head and shoulder pattern. If someone knew nothing at all but the head and shoulder pattern, they would have known right here that there was a head and shoulder and Bitcoin had a 68% chance of a break to the downside. Forget 100K, forget what everyone said. Simple pattern right here. So I looked at this and I said, all right, and maybe I could find when Bitcoin is going to enter its new trend when I can see it break its previous high, right? So I looked at the downtrend. And remember, I kept this in mind. I teach this every week too. At one point, it was once a week. So I was teaching this concept over and over again. So it never left me. And so I watched and I said, low, high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, higher high, right? We broke through. When we broke 21.5 right there and we made these candles above it, you had to assume the next low was going to be a higher low. And boom. And look at the trend, right? So that right there was when I knew I should be getting into Bitcoin pretty heavily. And that's why the 19K Bitcoin made sense to me. Then we would go to a CME gap here at 19. Now I'd buy the 19K Bitcoin right around here. I'm not going to lie. We would come back down again and come back out. And I would also purchase a lot of Bitcoin down at this area. There was a cup and handle here. I called it. There was a gap in the VRVP. I kept saying we can likely get back to 19,000 because you have a gap in the VRVP. But anyway, so the first thing was trend analysis. That was the first thing that made me realize that we were likely we had likely broken the trend. You know what I mean? The trend had broken, and I compared it with the upside down idea. Boom. The second thing I looked at was bullish divergence, right? But I didn't just take bullish divergence on Bitcoin. I had to look at it on like the Dow. I had to find an asset that was bigger than Bitcoin, that had way more, years and years of data, right? So the Dow Jones, a great example. Cool thing too I have here is every October ever, And look, all you have to do to be rich in America is buy the Dow Jones in October. Look at this.
Yeah.
Every single year except for 1 year, you would have lost money. It's even the pandemic year where we dipped down here on 2020, you would have broke even from October to October on the worst year ever, where everyone said the world was going to end, which is pretty interesting to me. But when I look at this, I'm looking for bullish div on the weekly, right? It's right there. Boom. You saw it in 2015. When did we see it again? Right there. Like, this is a hidden one, but this one was the same one right here, 2009. So you're telling me an indicator that comes once every 7-6 years on the biggest asset in the world, and every time that was your bottom right there. That was your bottom right there. And I could go to gold. I could show you oil. I could show you every asset that has 10, 20, 30 years of data. And I can show you that a bullish divergence on the weekly is a bottom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so once I decided, so I took those again, just like I got into Bitcoin with years of data on fiat currency. I decided where the bottom was based off years of data. And thank God, I had the recognition to see this, and I had the indicators, and I've been playing them for a long time. But if we go to the weekly, Bitcoin clearly had a beautiful bullish divergence right here. Sorry, let me move this. A beautiful bullish divergence here where the RSI was moving up, but the price action was moving to the downside. And this was another huge reason why I knew that we likely had bottomed for Bitcoin. And again, at this point, Ukraine's going into war. They were shelling a nuclear facility this night when I bought more Bitcoin. They were trying to make you think the world was going to zero. Everyone said, oh, we have to drop all the way down to 13. Then there was the 7 and the 10K people, and but they couldn't see divergence. And so everyone that kept saying that we were going to these lower levels, I'm like, did you not back test bullish divergence on the weekly? Or you're just going to say whatever you want? You know what I mean? And so for someone like me that's spending hours and hours in the chart to give proper data to people, it does drive me crazy when I see analysts just kind of do whatever they want. Cause I almost get offended because I'm like, hey man, I got years of my life behind this. You know what I mean? So, and
don't nullify it.
Yeah. And I can be overzealous, which I don't mean to be, but no one realizes how long I've been sitting alone in a basement, with my eyes bleeding, making sure. So I just wanted to give you, cause I don't know if you saw that. I just wanted to give you, I don't come out of nowhere claiming there's the bottom. I don't just point and say stuff. When I do say, I believe we've bottomed, I'm using years of data. And to me, I have I want a strong argument. If I went to court and these were the details and the evidence, I would like the jury to be like, you know what? It does look like the bottom. He has a great argument here. And well, I just, did you see the bottom? Did you buy into the bottom? Were there any things that you saw that I didn't see that maybe kind of made you feel like the market was bottoming, or that you felt the data showed you that the market was bottoming?
No, once we saw it kind of bounce pretty hard off of that 15 level, it was I think it was 15.5, 15.6 range. It didn't even really hit actually 15K.
Yeah, 15.8, I think, even, right? Yeah, we can see
because I was the guy that was look, 10K is in play, and it was based on other fundamentals from previous data from the previous bull runs. I think the 2 previous bull runs, the last one was an 80% retracement. The one before that was an 85% retracement. And I was like, look, we're at a 70-something% or 60-something% retracement right here. That means that, potentially 10K could be in play. Plus, that's a very psychological level, but so is 15, right? So whenever I saw 15 bounce, I was like, well, it's probably going to go back up to 20. And if we don't get rejected, that was kind of my indication. My indication is those previous supports and resistances, right? I didn't take this out as far as you did with the weekly chart and stuff like that, but I always look at those previous support and resistances and the psychological levels 30K, 25K and stuff like that. And if we go up and we retest that previous resistance, or that what was a support that got flipped into a resistance, and we bounce off of it, man, we're either going to sit there and capitulate in that region and kind of ping pong off of it, or it might fall through if it goes down. You see what I'm saying? So I was like,
100%.
Maybe we could go to 10K, but 15K, that's when after we bounced off of 15K, that's when I started not saying 10K's in play anymore. Because I was like, well, we tried. I was hoping.
Yeah, no, even just because the bullish divergence was here, right?
Yeah.
Once when we fuddled around right here, there's a chance it could have extended divergence. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
And I was sitting there. I was like, if we lose this level, we're going to 12 or 13, and we lose that, you could see 10K at that point. But once you broke this high here, right? And you cut that high out and then used it as support, to me, the 10K, the 10K talk was really gone. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, it was over after that.
and people don't realize too how much money it's gonna, like, everyone that throws these numbers out, like, you know how much money it would take for us to get to 10K? Like, you'd be like, you'd have to have the world would have to short, like, and why would people give up the best? Like, why would people start selling Bitcoin for the dollar right now? Like, it doesn't make any, like, why would they give up a scarce asset while they're printing the other one? It just logically doesn't make sense. Even if you wanted to throw the charts out there, it doesn't make. Another thing I say is all the bottom buys I've ever had in my life took like all the guts in my life. Like, literally, it's almost like if there was like a bunch of Navy SEALs and the guy's like, who's coming on the mission? And he looked at like all 30 guys and one guy's just like raises his hand. Like, only one guy, he's like, you could die on this mission, Like, buying the bottom is extremely, you feel sick. Your best buy should make you feel sick inside. Like, when you're pressing the buy button, you should just be like, but I knew when I made these buys down here that most people didn't. And it told me that because most people were afraid to buy down here, they're not going to get it again. Like, it took me years of trading to finally get through all my emotions to buy this and really listen to the divergence and not my emotions. And I knew that after 10 years of trading for me to finally get to that point. And so the point is, it's so hard to get down there and it's so hard to get yourself to buy down there that people thought they were going to be handed that price again. No, like, that's you have to be prepared, ready, and mentally stable. Like, there has to be emotionally, you have to have everything kind of in place to buy pretty close to the bottom when it comes to these assets. And it's not easy. I'm telling you right now, like, I missed it numerous times. So, like, this year's the year I finally really started to nail it. I did buy down here in these dips, but that was just because it was the worst day I ever, buy the blood. Right. And like, I didn't have like as much of data on that, but still, I mean, so to me, if it was that hard to get in, I don't think it's going to be that easy for other people to get it. And it's kind of a life idea, right? It wasn't even just a chart idea. It was just a life idea, right? Like 100%. Making the NFL, like, the guy works his butt off. Like, you're not getting in there. Like, this is a very insane buy. And if you got down there, your life is going to change, man. You know what I mean? Like, you could change your life buying down there. Like, I've doubled a lot of my savings already, right? Since this point. And I mean, thank the Lord, bro. Like, without cryptocurrency, I never would have seen these beautiful opportunities in life, right?
Well, that's the thing, and it's a very powerful market for us to be in, right? Because of the fact that it's moving so fast, dude. And that's the thing that I enjoy about crypto, is that it's kind of like our generation's like .com boom, right? Which we didn't ever get to like take any participation in that, which sucked, but whatever. I actually, back in the day, I told my mom to buy Apple and Microsoft stock like in like 1999 or something like that. But I was like 10 years old or something like that. So that's what I like about crypto, is not only for that, but we can also build in this. Like, we can build it like an actual kind of like a business inside of here. Like, I know I've built a couple of businesses, and then you can also build your own portfolio, which almost is like a small business, but it only, I guess it really only kind of like benefits you and your family, right? So it's a little bit different, but same difference, man. Like, that's my point. And that's why I was like, what do I do well, right? Am I going to go out and am I going to do all this TA stuff? And I can, and I absolutely I can. And I've got actually I can show you really quick. I've got a trade going right now. Actually, and I just had to bring my stop loss down. I had to do it on my phone because my computer's not cooperating. Yeah, my computer's just not cooperating right now, so I had to do that on my phone. But let's find the window really quick and let's see where Bitcoin is at. Yeah, so I'm actually in a trade right now. It's just a little 3 Bitcoin short, right? And we've got, I don't know, $2,400 profit, something like that. So I actually brought my stop loss down just a little bit, because now that I'm in profit, I'm not going to risk it, right? So if it hits 34,123, I'm going to get stopped out in profit, and I'm good with that, right? So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, let's talk about your short. Maybe we could elaborate when we move to your channel later on at the end of this. But let's talk about your short. What made you get into the short? What were you looking at? And how did you deal with your emotions at the time? Was an indicator? Just kind of talk me through it, man. This is interesting. I love this.
So I've actually not taken like any trades in like the past month. And actually I pulled up my profit thing just to show like this is my last 30 days, bro. I've literally not taken any trades. And I got a $1,300 profit trade the other day. And then now obviously this one, I think that was yesterday or maybe it was the day before that. Basically what happened, and I'll stop sharing the
That's
screen so that
30% on 9
they don't
grand,
get,
man. I mean, I'm
yeah,
impressed. Most
it's
people
not
lose all their
bad.
money, dude. I don't care if everyone out there, if you start with 9 grand and a year goes by and you have 12, you're doing better than 90% of the other
Yeah.
people, man. People are just losing their money left and right. I'm proud, man. I think you're doing great. You guys downplay it. A win to me is a win. Like
Yeah.
not losing money
100%.
is exceptional. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was just kind of like an experiment as an account. I wanted to like kind of just like test my parameters. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there's been trades where I've just totally blown my own back out, right? So I took a 4K, I believe it was like 4K. And now I took it all the way up to over 40, right? And then I got real cocky and I was like, all right, cool, let's make a big trade here. And I made a bigger trade, and then I lost like I think it was like 12K of it or something like that. So I blew 12K right there. And I was just like, all right, let's go back to the drawing board because we're still up 5-6x here. Like it's not that big of a deal, right?
Mhm.
And this is why I do this, is so that I can learn lessons along the way. So I never make that mistake with a large amount of money, right? I don't
Mhm.
want to come in with 500 grand, 100 grand and blow it like that, right?
Mhm.
It's dumb. So I'll risk the 4K and I'll test out all my different risk parameters and things of that sort. What I saw was I was like, okay, we saw this massive run up. It was all news based, dude. It was all news based. And I was like, this is pure speculation. I made an entire video about this on my channel talking about the BlackRock. Like it's all pure speculation. No one knows, okay, if it's actually going to get approved or if it
Mhm.
isn't, or if it is approved, right? And it's
100%.
not approved as it is right now. So it
Yeah.
ran up and I was like, when it hit 30K and went through, I was like, okay, if we blast through 32K, it's hitting 35. And we actually blasted through 35 and hit 36. And if I would have been paying attention, I promise you I would have shorted at 36. But I got in on my short at 35 because I was like, look, this is all news based. We ran from 30K up to 36K in a matter of a couple of hours just on some sentiment, right?
Mhm.
Market makers are going to make markets, right? They're going to eat that liquidity up immediately. All those people that were in those longs, they're taking that back eventually. We know that. That's what market makers do. All right.
Yeah.
And it's easier to do that in this market because there's less liquidity and they can move it with way less money than it would take to do it on the Dow. Right. So the reason why I shorted was because I was like, we just hit and blew through a key psychological level, right? But it went right back down to 35K. And I was like, this is where I'm shorting and I'm going to write it down and I'm just going to trail my stop loss down. I'm just going to watch it. I'm going to trail my stop loss. Now, my target is 30, obviously, right? The next psychological level, or at the very least, like 32.5 to 33 range, because there's a little bit of support there. But I think that a healthy market always retests, right? It'll always retest the resistance or support that it just flipped. So I was
Mhm.
like, okay, we have not even come close to retesting that. Eventually we're going to retest it, right? We have to. That's how markets work. So I was like, let's hit this short. Let's make sure that we're not too over leveraged. My first short, I'm not gonna lie, was 20x on it. And then this short was 15x, right? To give me a little bit more breathing room. And
Yeah.
so, bam, and it works out. So I'm going to set those stop losses because I'm just going to be greedy and I'm just going to be like, hey, profits are profits. So I'd rather take 2K or 1500 in profit, make that stop loss get hit in profit, and then if it bumps back up to anywhere, then I just start shorting again, right? Because in the same sense that we can be on this overarching level where we're setting like higher highs and higher lows, inside of those smaller time frames, there can be little subsets of that, right?
Totally.
And that
Micro and macro
we can
downtrend.
have
Yeah.
exactly micro downtrend back to the previous support level, and then it's a possibility that we bounce off of it, man, and go right back up. But what I do know is that traditionally and majority of the time, we are going to go back and retest that level. Is it going to be today? Is it going to be tomorrow? Is it going to be a week from now? I'm cool with making sure that I'm waiting, keeping my stop losses set, and I'm good with the risk, right? So that's kind of why I took those trades, and it worked out because my first trade I got stopped out in profit for like $1,300, and then it pumped up like another $400, and I just re-entered the trade. And now you see where that one's at, and I've trailed my stop loss all the way down to where I'm in profit at 34.1, probably to the tune of another $1,600. So
Great.
all good, man. And I'll just keep ripping it, dude. I'll just keep ripping it. And it's all about those small wins. They'll add up. I've noticed that those small wins will add up more than the big ones will majority of the time. Now, if it goes back down to 30, yeah, I'm going to make I'll make 13 grand or something like that. But am I willing to take the risk of not taking profits, or could I make that same 13 grand by taking all of those smaller trades while it's ping ponging off of, and that's what I would rather do because it's less risky.
I'll tell you what,
less time.
Share my screen. I mean, you have a pretty good, idea. Cause look, the way I trade is all based off of moving averages basically. And once you this morning, I called a short last night, I was long last night, right? Inside of this pennant. But I said, I said, the second we lose the 200 SMA on the 7, we're going to dump, and it's such an amazing way to trade, like using the 200 SMA. Now it takes time to understand how to use it on all the different time frames. And that's kind of really I think what people, they get into the 1 hour, the 15, the 7, and they get confused and then they get blocked by the, eventually all the time frames make sense to you. You just kind of, I talk about them almost like cars in the driveway. Like, if you had a Corvette, if you had a Porsche, like you can't drive them at the same time. Like you can't drive the 1 hour at the same time that you can trade the 4 hour time frame. So I've traded the 1 hour for years on and off. I've traded the 4 hour. I've traded the 15. Now I have, 500, 600, 700 hours on the 15, 1,000 hours on the 4. And now all the time that I've spent on all these different time frames meshes them together. Now I can kind of see the market as a whole. But one thing that I do is whenever we lose the 200 SMA, you're going to the downside, period. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then I looked at it on the 15, and the same thing happened today on the live stream. I basically drew this. This is a bear flag. And on the live stream, we opened a short right here, and short continued to play down. We sold it at this divergence, right? And we're seeing if we can flip back up. But the idea is now that the 15-minute is lost to 200 SMA, you're likely now to drop down to the 200 SMA on the 1 hour time frame. And you have a gap in the VRVP here. It tells me that you're likely to get to, possibly 31,000, and then I use Bookmap, which shows me liquidity data, and it's telling me, look at, these are huge buy orders right here, right? And do you see any sell orders up here? No. So usually this is not 100% accurate, but it's about 80 to 90% accurate. When this tells me there's a batch of liquidity down here, we go to it. You know what I mean? The market makers want to go to where there's the most orders. And the most order is sitting, and that's why when you said 32, 33, 32.5, I got really happy because I'm like, man, if he holds that, he's talking about a huge whale liquidity zone, and he'll likely be able to get his order filled, and he'll be able to make the trade. There's a chance though, because of the sentiment, there's a chance tomorrow, some news comes out and the ETF, you never know. The ETF could get approved tomorrow. That's why it's I have this I'm in this kind of weird sentiment, but because we lost the 200 SMA on the 15, that was key. If we didn't lose that, we were going up. I'll tell you right now, we would bullish retest and we would have pumped out. But now we're getting this rounded top. And then you have to look at the daily. You have to take into account on the daily. I've seen the 4 hour look bullish, but when the daily wants to take you down, the daily will crush. It will basically do what's called a pinning. And what I mean by that is the daily will start to dump here, and the 4 hour will just stay down here. These stochastics won't reset. You won't get the oscillation reset. You'll just hang out down here while the daily just pounds. And so if you see the 4 hour lose this 21, you're going to the 50. And if you see the 4 hour lose the 50, you're going to the 200 SMA, right? And so I just I just keep going, I keep going to the 200.
Where was that 21 on the daily just now? Or was that the 4 hour?
No, yeah. And that's another thing I wanted to talk about. My trading style, look, I can take you back in time. I use the 21 SMA as my, it's so amazing, right? So the second we pump away from this, I do what's called a twisted sister. I made this up because you don't know where price is going to go. We just know that it can't move until it hits the 21. So I'll say it's either going to go sideways and kiss the 21, or it's going to make a falling wedge and kiss the 21. Here, you can open up a short really and hang out. And the short might just go sideways and you won't really lose anything. And then once the short sideways, you can always flip long. But if not, you'll win the short to the downside, right? You can pull a fib and see kind of what price action does. And so look, you'll see this time we went sideways, but we were not able to pump. Look, now that we marry the 21, price can now, it's almost like it's a release. It's like, you can go now, right? And I back into this on every time stream all the time, right? So let's bring us where we are now. And see, I'm so passionate just about talking about TA. I could probably sit here all day, just
Yeah.
like. But now when I look at it here, I can see, wow, we're making the gap from the 21. So then I start that sentiment again, right? And I can delete all my old work from earlier. And I start the same idea. Like now, if we're super bullish, somehow Bitcoin will like stay, it'll somehow stay in like a bull pennant and we'll go sideways.
Yep.
And if not, we're most likely going to trend down because this is how far away. But look, a golden cross coming as well on the daily.
Yep.
And so if we do get a slight pullback, it's going to be short-lived. Like you said, I just see we just bounce off here, or we might not go that low. We might go sideways because of buy pressure. There's so many. You have to remember too, there's me and you trading, there's market makers, and then there is a lot of retail that were told that they were going to get 10K, 25K. And then 28K, they were like, oh, I'll get 25. Every time it went up a little more, first they said 15. Then it went to 22. They're like, oh, I'll buy 19. I'll wait for 17. Then it went to 25. And they're like, okay, I'll get 20. Then it went to 30. And they're like, okay, I'll get sub 25. I'll wait. Now it went to 35. Now they're like, will I ever get? Now they're freaking out. So now 28, 29 looks really attractive to them because now they're like, dude, if I don't get 28, 29, it's going to be like all the other times that I waited. And what happens then? So that's the beautiful thing about Bitcoin. That's why Bitcoin skyrockets so fast because the sentiment gets flipped. And you have all the people that already knew we were bullish. And then you have all those people that have no choice because they just waited too long, So I'm looking at this. I mean, so there's a good chance that you do win the short, right? And on the smaller time frame, the 4 hour plays out. But yeah, I kind of want to switch.
I'm thinking 32.8, maybe 32.8 would be a good exit somewhere in that realm. Because, I always try to be above the supports and resistances or below the supports and resistances because like I don't want it to hit perfectly. I've literally come within like 8 cents before on like a $28,000 Bitcoin. And my order is like 8 cents under what it hit. And I'm like, never again is that happening. And of course it's on a wick when you're asleep and it's the Asian markets that did it. So you're like, nope, never happening again. So I always set it out, at least $100 or $200 if you can. So
I call it trading cute, just a little below where everyone else probably will be. You know what I mean? Just get mine while I can. If
I don't need a sniper, man. I don't need to snipe to make money. Like if I only had like $500, I would be trying to snipe, right? But like if you have, $10,000 plus, you don't need to snipe. What's the difference in between getting a $1,200 profit and a $900 profit? It's not that big of a deal. So, and I get it over time that adds up, but that's greed talking instead of just saying I'm profitable. Profits are profits. I'm going to keep it consistent and keep it moving, so
take the money and run, man.
100%.
This is really interesting to me because I saw you as an entrepreneur and I saw you building and I never realized how I didn't know you had this passion for the charts and I didn't realize you were trading this much. Ben, this has been amazing. I didn't realize that you were so into the charts like this, bro. Like me being passionate, we talk about cigars. We talked about a lot of things when we were at the party, but we definitely didn't talk about Fibonacci and divergences, but I didn't realize you had such respect for TA. A lot of people don't, they just don't. They don't put enough time into the charts. You have obviously put enough time into the charts to actually respect the technical analysis, which I find amazing. I mean, it's the reason why you're winning trades. Like you're setting support or resistance, you're not listening to your emotions. You're actually trading levels and price action. So now I'm a little interested now because I do my TA, but I feel like I could learn something from you. What coins are you getting into? Like, have you built a bit of a bear market portfolio? Are the things that I haven't got into that you're looking into? I kind of want to know, man. I feel like I might be missing out if I don't get this information from you right now.
Yeah, 100%. So we actually, I'm gonna give one spoiler, which is something that I guarantee you almost nobody has heard of. And I literally, this is the power of community. Okay, I cannot stress this enough.